On this episode of Between Two Beers, we talk to Dave Williams. Dave is partway through one of the hardest, most inspirational physical and mental challenges we've ever heard of. In 2013, he set a goal to become the first person to climb the highest mountain in each continent from the nearest feasible coastline, and he does it at pace. That meant in some cases running 10 marathons in 9 days, then climbing for 6 to reach the mountain's summit. It's pretty insane. After completing 4 climbs in Africa, Europe, South America and Australia, Dave has 3 to go, including plans to conquer Everest, which will involve 32 marathons before 60 days of climbing. Yeah, I know. After losing 2 friends to depression in 2013, Dave's journey was inspired by and is driven by his desire to raise awareness of men's mental health and to encourage those struggling to speak out. His goal is to raise $100,000 for the New Zealand Mental Health Foundation. In this podcast, we talk about failure, near-death experiences, grizzly bears, 100-kilometre wins, mental strength, drama at gunpoint, conquering ego, and asking for help. Dave is an articulate, insightful guest who is an incredible storyteller with so many epic stories to tell. This podcast was sponsored by Gemma Stewart, a former Waikato football prodigy who now works as a lawyer in Melbourne. Gemma has suggested her sponsorship payment get donated to the New Zealand Mental Health Foundation, and we've agreed that's a great idea. You can listen to this episode on YouTube, Spotify or Apple Podcasts and find the show notes on our Between Two Beers Facebook page. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode, contact us at betweentwobeerspodcastnz@gmail.com. Enjoy. Dave Williams, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Yeah, kia ora. Stoked to be here.
We're excited too. We're in Raglan tonight, drinking Soul beers. Very excited. Dave is a guest who we'd sort of eyed up from the beginning of Between Two Beers. He's got an incredible story, so excited to get into it. Shay, how do you know Dave Williams?
We've met for the first time tonight. I was a little embarrassed because I've actually turned up in Raglan barefooted. But you've sort of said to me, do I think that's okay because we're going to Raglan? That's got nothing to do with it, but it's just coincidence that I'm shoeless. So thanks for welcoming us to your home.
Oh, all good. I mean, shoeless is pretty much a Raglan uniform, so
thank you.
It's all good.
But you've met Dave before, Steve.
Yeah, Dave used to live with Michael Main, a friend of the show. So I think they lived at Eden Park for a couple of years. So I think we had a few beers and a few parties and yeah, enjoyed each other's company. Haven't caught up for a while, though I did follow his adventures on Facebook and his blogs and videos and things when he was attempting the incredible stories we are about to get to. So yeah, to give a little bit of a background, Dave has attempted to climb the 7 highest mountains from sea to summit on 7 continents. And have I got that right?
No. That would be the challenge is hard enough, but 7 of them in each continent would be hectic. No, it's the highest mountain in each of the 7 continents from sea level. Yeah.
I practiced that 5 times and I've still messed it up. But we're gonna move on.
By the end of the podcast, you'll nail it.
Yeah. So canvassed a bunch of opinions and comments and stories from friends and colleagues and people who've been on journeys with you. I just want to start with this quote from Mike Boston, who accompanied you on I think 2 of your climbs.
Yeah, it'll be a lie, but go for it.
Well, it's nice things, so you might want to take that back. Mike says, "The dude is an absolute privilege to know. He's the kindest guy you will meet, and he is genuinely doing this because he believes in the mental health cause to his core. His only concern is raising money and awareness for it and helping people affected by it. It means everything to him. I'd follow that fella into battle anywhere." And he stresses that the best story and the place we're going to start tonight is your trip to Europe, to Mt Elbrus, on the sort of border of Georgia and Russia. So we're going to cover the whole story, but we're going to dive right in there. So set the scene, take us there, and tell us what happened.
Yeah, Russia is and Georgia is definitely probably the yarn that seems to come up with the most, just because it's the most pretty far-fetched and ridiculous. But yeah, even I don't know how many times I've told it, but even when I tell it, I'm still like, oh my gosh. So yeah, it all started. No one's ever done a cedar summit of Elbrus before, which is the highest mountain in Europe. and it's in the Caucasus mountain range. And I started planning for it, and I'm like, okay, trying to find topographical maps of the area I was going to run through, and try and come up with a strategy and find my route and everything like that. But there's just no information out there. I can't just walk into a Russian library here or a Georgian library and there's no topo maps or anything like that. So basically I just spent hours and hours and hours on Google Earth, just looking at it and kind of planning my route from Google Earth. In fact, I actually spent so much time on Google Earth that when I was running through the middle of nowhere, it was like I was a Terminator. One eye was actually seeing what I was seeing, and the other eye was like memory of Google Earth, and it was like comparing them. It was pretty surreal. But yeah, I did that mission. I had a support crew, my mate Rich, who's come on a couple of missions, and then I took a Russian girl, Zarina, to help us translate for part of it, and of course our van Boris. That we hired, and we set off from Georgia, and it was about 5 marathons to get to kind of where the mountain started. Because what I do, I run a marathon a day consecutively, so I just figure out what the distance is going to be to get to the mountain, and then I divide it by 42.2 and figure out how many marathons I'm going to be running.
All right, I think we need to jump in there, Shay.
Yeah.
Marathon a day, like let's get this cleared away.
I want to actually jump right back to Auckland, because I think even getting to Georgia is logistically quite challenging. Are you going? Is it to Tbilisi? Is that the capital?
Tbilisi. Yep. Flew into Tbilisi, and that's where we hired Boris. And
but how do you even get there? It's going to be really easy. Isn't
Where did we go? I think
Dubai and then direct.
Yeah, so we did. Dubai and then straight to Tbilisi.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Okay, marathon a day. What sort of training has gone in? How long have you been preparing to do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been running for years, but when I get into South America and my mission to Aconcagua, it'll kind of come a little bit more true on why I decided to run a marathon a day instead of walking it. But it's just walking can get boring, and keep it interesting. Just that physical challenge of doing the marathon a day gives you that milestone to push for each day. And also you say the word marathon and there's immediate connotations behind it that people can actually identify with and grasp to. So a marathon's almost a metaphor for a big adventure, so I think it fits well.
And your mate Michael Main's actually planning on running a marathon this year. He told us, so this is probably good listening for him.
Well, the good thing about Mike Main is he's he's super nimble and super agile. So his marathon that he's running is a trail marathon up Parongia too. So
so you've heard about it as well?
Oh well, he entered the 10K, but I actually signed in. Tyler gave me his password, and I've changed him to the 42 Grunter.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so 5 marathons in 5 days.
Yeah.
How's the body at the start of each new day? Yeah. How old are you at this point, and how's the body recovering?
35. Yeah. It's a few niggles and things have crept up and had a couple of injuries and stuff, but it's about preservation. So for Georgia, because I needed to remain with a bit of body weight and condition. So what I did there is I'd run a half marathon in the morning and then just smash as much food as I could for a few hours and then just run the other half. And then that kind of meant that
I love how nonchalant
that is. Eating too much of my body away, So when I ran through Tanzania, when I ran to Kilimanjaro, I was doing a marathon from 4:35 in the morning straight with no break. And that's because I needed to use the coldness of the day, because it's too hot to run in the afternoon, so I just had to smash it out. But it was in Georgia, the temperature was cold. Sometimes I was starting, it was pretty similar to autumn in North Island, really.
What sort of pace are we talking about? Smashing it out? What sort of pace are we talking about?
That's a bit of a problem. If I take my ego out of it, I just kind of cruise, but it's kind of hard sometimes. So in Russia, I did 5 marathons. They were all sub 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what?
Back to back.
Yeah.
What's the fastest pace you've ever done? If you've ever run like a marathon, just a normal marathon without being connected to this?
I've done one sub 3 marathon. I'm not built for speed, Well,
that's pretty quick, isn't it? Sub 3.
Let's
not kid ourselves. That is rapid. Okay, just so we've got a bit of a picture of what we're dealing with here.
It was 2:59 or something. So
that's amazing.
It's
very, very fast for those not aware of marathon times. Okay, so 5 marathons in 5 days gets you to...
Yeah, it got me to the border of Russia and Georgia is this is when the story gets good, is closed. So there's a 4-kilometre militarised zone. So my route that I planned on Google Earth was to kind of cut through this militarised zone. And otherwise I would have had to run another 500 or 600 Ks from Sochi. And then I didn't want to do that. So my plan was... so I had a plan to run to the border on the Georgian side, make it to literally the border, and then turn around, run back out, and then get in a car, enter the country legally, get my passport stamped and all of that sort of jazz, and then on the Russian side, run back into where I got to on the Georgian side and turn around and keep going. Because if I'd crossed into Russia from Georgia through the middle of nowhere without a passport stamp or anything, I would have gotten shot, because it's a closed militarised zone.
Who's helped you come up with this plan? Is this your...
Oh, it was my plan, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I bounced it off some people. And
they said it was a good plan?
I don't know if they gave that feedback, but my mate Rich thought it was a good plan, and he's one of the least sensible guys I know. So he gave me the thumbs up, which was good enough for me.
Okay, so it was all going well?
Yeah. So I'd finished the marathons and stuff and was like, yep, cool. And then I said goodbye to Boris in the van, because obviously it can't go into the middle of nowhere, and I set off as light as possible and thought if I just go hard, I should be able to get from the trail edge up to the border and back in about 30 odd hours, just continuous push. And then
in 30 hours.
Yeah, and then I can meet Boris, the van back, and Rich, and then we'll enter the country legally, and then I've done that part. I knew it was going to be sneaky, and I couldn't. There were signs everywhere saying I shouldn't do it, but I couldn't read Russian, so I just kind of ignored them. And, So ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah. Do you know what they were saying now?
Yeah.
Keep out. Do not.
Keep out. Closed militarised zone. We will shoot you on sight.
All that stuff.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of sneaking my way up this. It's called the Nakra Valley, and I'm sneaking my way up the valley, and then. When you just get that feeling like you should not be here, passing all of these signs and stuff, and I'm just like, there's no one around, this is kind of weird. And then kind of out of nowhere, these like cows like came out of the bush, and then like they had bells on, and the bells start going crazy. I'm like, oh no, what are these? Why have these cows got bells on? This is weird. Like, why are they like jumping out of the bush? Well, not jumping, but like meandering. And then I was like, okay, this is not a good sign. And then I kind of kept creeping up this valley, and I was getting pretty far from I was getting to this massive river crossing that I had to do. And then, sure enough, these Georgian military guys jumped out of the bush with AKs all pointed at me, just screaming at me in Russian. And
what's gone through your head? You're seeing these guys come out with guns. Are you thinking life's in danger?
I'm thinking submit. Yeah. And I just like got down, hands up on my knees, like nah,
heart going 100 miles an hour.
I thought I was pretty toast. And
I can't imagine too many people would be going Georgia to Russia. I feel like it would be the other way around.
Yeah, well, I ran from the Black Sea.
Do you know what I mean? No, if you were like a fugitive, or you're trying to make that dash, I feel like you're trying to get out of Russia rather than get into Russia.
The reason that 4 kilometres was established, so both the Georgian and Russian government said, this 4 kilometres, neither of us can go. It's a band that's just going to separate the countries, because a lot of the smugglers in the down a little bit further south is Chechnya, with all the Chechen terrorists and a bunch of other things, and heaps of other smuggling had happened through that area. So that band of 4 kilometres was the government's way of preventing any foot traffic or people going through that area,
right?
That would potentially smuggling things that shouldn't have. So that was my route.
So you're on your knees, hands in the air, waiting for
how good's your
worst
Russian?
Case scenario.
Oh yeah, I decided Russian was really hard to learn, so I just learnt the accent, and I thought that would be alright.
Steve, you're quite
You're quite good at accents.
No. I don't do a Russian. I do a South African. I don't do a Russian. What's
so I was like,
Russian?
no, please, don't shoot me. Don't shoot me.
That's really good.
And obviously they didn't understand, and they detained me, and then rang ahead to the military, the border control, the guys there, and told them what happened. They like searched all my stuff. But
detained you, like they handcuffed you?
Yeah, they had me there,
tied
just
you up,
sitting me down
at gunpoint.
At gunpoint, yeah. Just went through my stuff trying to figure out what was going on.
Fuck that.
And then
where's your passport?
Yeah, so my passport was back with Boris and my mate.
Oh, that's not a strong play.
No, I thought it was because I didn't want to get it confiscated or taken, and then I would have been screwed.
Maybe it is a smart
play.
play.
So I've learned from another previous trip not to have my passport in that sort of situation. So
okay,
yeah. But I did have a letter that was written by the Russian friend of mine, kind of explaining what I was doing. But I didn't want to give it to these guys because they like it was like an 80s action movie, you know, like they were the lackeys, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, if I give it to this, you know, these guys, you want to save it for the boss.
Yeah.
So
it's like a scene in Rambo 3 where you got to get to the guy that had the big hind helicopter.
Yeah. So these guys weren't the guys that you give all your ace in the hole to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they radioed back to base and said that what was going on, and they sent me packing with one guy to a certain point because they can't leave their little area, and then the next guys would come in and they'd meet me, and then we managed to get a hold of my Russian friend who was visiting her family at the time because she was only hanging out for the run part.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, we need you because I'm in trouble. And then so we went to the Georgian border control base, which is not too far away. We kind of got escorted there, and then I just remember kind of being in this room, and there was all of the army guys were there, and they're talking and kind of like trying to figure out what was going on, and then the boss walks in. You know, like the classic 80s action movie. He had the scar down his face. He looked like serious and seasoned, and was pretty stocky and stuff. And he walks in and does the whole head signal, and the lackey guards move away and leave us alone. You know, walks in, and then he's like, and then
you American spy.
Give
I don't know what that was. That was Borat.
I freaking out. I kind of give him that letter explaining what I've been doing, and he looked like he was about to throw me against the concrete wall. Who are you working for? You know, who are you working for? Smashing, and then
I was a bit Borat as well.
That was what's and then yes, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. And then he reads the letter, and in the letter it explains that I'm trying to do the first ever Cedar Summit of Elbrus, but the main reason I'm doing it is to raise awareness for mental health. And it was all translated in Russian. And he reads the letter, and his demeanour just immediately shifts. And he just walks over to me, and I see a tear in his eye, and he gives me a massive hug. And then I'm like, what the heck? I was not expecting that. And then he talks through my Russian friend, and he explains that in Georgia it's a huge issue that Georgian men can't talk about their feelings or their vulnerabilities, and a lot of them take drastic measures because it's just not okay in their society to actually talk about their struggles. And he just said, it's not just New Zealand, it's happening here too, and obviously they've had a pretty rough time with being oppressed by Russia and all of the stuff that they've gone through in war-torn areas. And he just said to me, he's just like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to...
And this is in the space of a minute of him reading this, and then he just turns, and through the translator you realise you're okay.
Well, he said, it's kind of a bit of a broken translation, but I think it was either his stepbrother or someone that was really close to him. He found them in a very vulnerable state, and they were about to, do something that they couldn't come back from. And and he's just like, I want to do everything in my power to help you. And what he did is he gave me a special permit that has never been given to any Westerner or non-Georgian or Russian, allowing me access up the Nacra Valley to get to the border of Georgia in the Caucasus Mountain Range in the closed militarized zone.
Yeah.
And this permit, he said, he gave me a time frame. I had to get in by 2 p.m. the next day. If the Russians found me after that time, the permit was void and they could shoot me, and
Jesus.
Things like that. But it was, so he used all of his power, signed it, got it, basically a royal decree or whatever.
Yeah.
And but he had a few conditions, and this is the coolest part. He's like, the road in you cannot walk. You need to take my army jeep. And I'm like, sweet. So I had to take the army jeep back into the area where near where the cows were. So that took. I didn't have to run that again. So I was like, I accept your first term. And his second term was like, the river is too dangerous to cross. You will die. So my comrade will meet you at the river with my horse, and then you can ride my horse across the river and then tie it up, and then you'll be safe. I was like, I accept your second term. That sounds awesome. He was like, yes. And the third term is, that you cannot be past 2 p.m. the next day, or else the Russians, they find you, they kill you. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So yeah, next day, we had a couple of shots of vodka to celebrate, and then next thing you know, I'm in an army escort jeep. Feeling like the man, getting driven into the spot, and then run along the track, and then.
Is anyone running with you, or is anyone accompanying you?
So yeah. And then, sure enough, I pop out.
But then you pop out a river and there's a horse there?
Yeah, pop out in the middle of nowhere. There's this dude with this horse. Oh, and they said I wasn't allowed to film being in the area, so I put my GoPro on top of my walking stick and duct taped it around, but I cut a little hole for the filming part.
I was watching a video of that today.
Yeah.
It looks like the guard becomes aware of it.
He does. He's like, what's that? I'm like, nothing. Yeah. He does. Right at the end when I get off the horse, he clicks and he thinks that I'm figures out that it must be a camera, and I'm like, no, that's nothing. And then I take off.
So what happened after that finished filming? He didn't.
No, he didn't. I was gone, so I just ran off. So yeah.
So knowing what you know now about that situation, if you didn't have the mental health stuff in that letter, how bad? What do you think would have happened?
I think they would have kicked me out of the country, and or detained me for longer, and figured out why I was trying to figure out really why I was up there, in the Necro Valley and whatnot, and that definitely would have been kicked out of the country.
Because I don't imagine there's a diplomatic presence in Georgia. Like the nearest one would be in Moscow or Kiev or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I have no
and
idea.
are you notifying those people that you're doing this sort of stuff?
No. Just yeah.
Not registering on safetravel.org.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, you're going to run up a militarized zone. They'll just say no. So it's better to ask for forgiveness rather than permission, I reckon, in most of these situations.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you get to the border.
Yep.
Do you have to run back, or do they help you get back to?
I ditched the horse and I got up at the snow line, and I'm running along, and I was solo. So and there was the field. The last part of the field was pretty crevasse filled, and I'm like, I'm solo, and usually you want to be roped up for crevasse so you don't fall in. So I just remember they weren't huge crevasses, so I was walking with my arms spread, so in case I did fall, I could catch myself. So I kind of found a couple little mini crevasses and made my way up to the border, and I just remember getting to that place, and I knew I was at the border because I had GPS to prove that I did it.
I was going to say, because there isn't a line drawn on the ground.
Oh no, it was all.
I think there might be on a map.
It's all off track. At one point, I'm bashing through head high plants and trees. Completely no trail because the military guys don't even go and past that river.
Right.
And so that river was kind of like their border essentially. And then, I made it. And then from the other side of the part that I was at, the border, it just went for a little bit longer, and then it dropped down into this huge valley. And that valley was the Russian side where they patrolled, and they used the valley as their kind of viewpoint. So anyone trying to get across there, they can see from a high point, and that's where they shoot from. So I got to the border, and I was just there, and it was 1:30. I had half an hour to go. I just quickly said a little yarn and took a few photos and marked it, and turned around and retraced my steps and got back to the horse, rode that across again, and got out of there.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then but that's only kind of half the story.
Yeah, and then you got to do the mountain.
Yeah, and then I had to join it on the Russian side.
Right.
So I went into the Russian side, and obviously the Russian side was a little bit harder because they just didn't seem as friendly and receptive to the mental health angle that I worked, and they just wouldn't let me in this area. So I kind of had to take this chairlift went up to a high point, and that high point was where you look into the valley, and that valley is that patrol part, and they've got a couple of like soldiers there with guns, like just monitoring the valley the whole time. And I couldn't get any closer than that, because if you did, you're basically in eyesight of the soldiers. So I got off the chairlift, and instead of going back down, I ran from that point. So there's a 2 kilometre gap, and that I couldn't really fill, and I ran from there to the mountain, which is about 30k away from that point, and then walked up the mountain underneath the gondola that takes the tourists up. I was walking underneath it with all my mountaineering gear, and they were like pointing at that from the gondola, like, what's that guy doing? And a couple of days later I was able to set myself up at the base camp of the mountain, and spent the next few days going up and down acclimatizing. My friend Rich came up for a few days and just hung out at base camp. He didn't do any of the acclimatizing. He doesn't really like it when the hill, like any gradient that's up. so he just gondoled it up and hung out at base camp. And so I spent the next few days acclimatizing, and I moved up to the highest camp, to Summit, and I couldn't really sleep, because I just kept thinking about that 2k gap. Yeah, and I was just like, I'm meant to Summit tomorrow, and I got up to Summit, and I just didn't really sleep, and I started walking, and all I could think about was that gap. And I was just like, how is it going to feel on being on the summit with that gap? And I just turned around, went to sleep, and then basically ran down off the mountain, and then went back to that area and realised that if I'd just at that chairlift where it turns up, if I get off there and kind of sneak around, I could sneak down this ridge, and then I'd be at the bottom of this valley, and I knew that I could get at least a kilometre closer.
Right.
So I did that. I'm kind of on that area, and I'm sneaking down, and I'm going around, and I snuck right around, and I could get to the point where I'm at the bottom of the valley, and it was one of those, like, cartoon, you poke your head out, you could see like where they're patrolling. I was like, okay, and I could literally see the point I was at, and I got to within about 800 or 900 meters of that point, and I was like, there's no way I can get closer than this. Like, this is it, And I knew that I'd feel proud standing on the summit, having known that I did whatever I possibly could have to make it connected. I also knew that there's no way anyone else would probably be able to get closer. So that was good enough for me. Yeah. And then got back to the high point, and a few days later I was ready to summit again, and sleep like an absolute baby to get up at 2 a.m. for my summit that time, just knowing that I'd done everything. And then I'm hiking towards the summit, and I knew that the weather, there was really good weather coming in 2 days, but I also was in a really weird frame of mind. Like I'd been almost arrested in Georgia, and I'd been battling away and run from the ocean, and I was feeling kind of hardcore, and like a the ego started to creep in, and I was feeling like I was way better than anyone else on the mountain, because they were like getting guided up or using snowmobiles to help acclimatize, and they'd all come up on the gondola, and I was like looking down on them. And you get into weird spaces when you're by yourself for so long. So I was like, all right, I'm going to summit tomorrow because it's a storm, and I know that there'll be no one else around. I'll summit in the storm, and then I can have it like to myself, and I won't have to be around all these other non-mountaineers, these people, that are doing it the easy way. And that was my mindset. So sure enough, got up, and it was a big day at the office. It was solid. Like, we couldn't even see, like, all your steps would just get blown back over with snow. There was only 5 of us that really attempted to even get onto the summit ridge that day. 2 of them were these American guys who I'm really good friends with. Brendan, he's the man. He's climbed Everest and stuff now. So so cool the people you meet on these journeys. But we were still on our own agendas. He was like kind of skinning and doing his thing with his mates, and I was solo. So we kind of would check in on each other just to make sure it's okay. But and then so there was only 3 of us on the summit ridge at the end, and you couldn't see anything. Like, maybe 20 meters. And I remember I was there and they were like, they just said, hey Dave, because they knew that I'd come all the way from the coast. This was the first ever Cedar Summit. I remember him just being like, you go and have the summit to yourself and we'll just wait here, even though it was like freezing and wind was howling and stuff. They just wait there, and I just remember being on the summit and reaching it, like, you know, one of the busiest summits of Europe, and I had it all to myself, you know, in the storm. Just completed this first ever Cedar Summit, and I just like broke down in tears, and I was just so proud and exhausted and just everything, you know. And I was just like, and then just walking down the ridge and then seeing my mate Brendan and, you know, giving him a high five and it's like, yeah, smashed it, you know, go get it. And then, but I was coming down, and then I was about 3 hours after my time that I said that I'd be popping out of the clouds to my mate Rich. And he's a legend. He's like super resourceful. He'd gone down and like paid some random guy with a snowmobile a whole bunch of money to try and go up and find me because I was so late, just because the weather was so bad. And then I just remember popping out of the clouds, like at the point of exhaustion. You know, I've been going for 3 weeks now, and I was just done. And I just see him on the back of the snowmobile, you know, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're a legend. Because I'd done the Cedar Summit now. I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to get down. And I just remember him like with a, you know, cold beer on a snowmobile, and I was just like, this is the best moment of my life. And just jumped on, and and he hooned me all the way down.
I was going to ask, is the outpouring of emotion stronger at the summit, or when you actually finish it and get right down to the bottom, and you sort of can have a sleep for a night and put the feet up?
I think it depends. Like, I don't even remember the summit of Kilimanjaro just because my body was so rooted. And yeah, like, so the summit becomes a certain thing in your mind, and when it's not that certain thing, it's really weird. But I think for me, the true emotion of what I'd done was when I popped out of the clouds, because I knew I was safe now, it was done, and I was with my friend. And that's when I just started like blabbering, which was awkward for him, but it was quite funny at the same time.
So I guess it's non-linear then, right? Like, you chart the number of days and how long it's actually taken you, but it's not actually, like, listening to you saying, like, you've acclimatized, you've gone up and down a number of times, then you've gone up to a point, and then you've decided, nah, fuck it, I'm going to go back down again, run this little bit, and then you've decided to go back up again, and then do the summit. So
ideally it's linear, but
right.
Logistically, this particular mountain, you couldn't do it like that. And the marathons are consecutive until I get to the point where you climb, but you can't keep going up and up and up because you'll get altitude sickness.
Right.
So you have to go up and down to acclimatize and all of that sort of stuff. So a climb is never really so straightforward. There's up and down and, you know, all of that. Like for Everest, it takes some months to climb, and heaps of time they're just hanging out at base camp, and they go up and, you know. So
what part is harder for you, the running or the climbing?
Probably the running, because I enjoy the climbing more. Yeah, so the running comes a bit monotonous. But the last part of that Russian story, I was like I say, I was kind of filled with a bit of ego and a bit of pride, and like pretty stoked because I'd done it. In classic New Zealand, you have to try and out humble each other. So I was just like, it wasn't bad, you know, it's pretty hard, you know. But so I was kind of in that frame of mind, especially New Zealand mountaineers. It's like, it's just, you get them all around a circle, and it's like, what have you done? A few things. So everyone's just trying to out humble each other. It doesn't even want to say anything. It's just like, it's hilarious. So I was just like, I was kind of in that mode because I was feeling like kind of elite, you know. And this Australian guy, I met him down at the base camp again, and I slept for a whole day after I got back down to my tent. I just couldn't even move. I was like, just slept that whole day. And then sure enough, the next day I'm looking for my tent, and you could just see trails of people getting dragged up by their guides, you know, and like all roped up and just dragged up by these Russian guides. It was a beautiful day though, and lots of people made the summit the next day. And he comes down as an Australian guy, and he was like bragging about his summit. And he was one of those guys that had, like, you know, acclimatized using a snowcat and like been tied to a massive Russian guide. And he was like, you know, so I knew that he was in that group, and he'd just been dragged up there. And he was all like, yeah, man, you know, it wasn't even that hard, eh? Like, you know, here I am, you know, just hadn't really done much mountaineering, and I stood on the top of Europe. I'm the man, you know. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, please stop talking, bloody Australians, you know. And I'm just like nodding and smiling and whatever. And then he just kept talking, just about, climbing. I'm doing all these other climbs now because it's, you know, mountaineering's a piece of cake and all this sort of stuff. And I was just about to say, well, bro, maybe next time you should actually climb it instead of getting dragged up there, you know, or try and go from the coast like I did. Literally, I was about to do that, and then I just didn't. I hesitated for a second, and then he kept talking because, you know, he's Australian, and he kept talking, and then he said, because who would have thought that only a few months ago I couldn't even get off my couch. I was so depressed, you know, after my partner left me, and I felt so worthless, and now I just set this goal and it got me off the couch and out there and doing stuff. And then he's like, next time I might try and do it in a different way. And I just like, I just dropped dead. I was like, oh my gosh. Imagine if I'd piped up and said, hey bro, climb it properly next time. Like he had a complete different story. And I started thinking, I was like, wow. And I just gave him this gigantic hug, and it just humbled me straight away. And it just reminded me of what I was doing. So I'd kind of gotten consumed a little bit about the journey and the summit and what I'd done and what I'd achieved, and lost touch a little bit with why I was there and the purpose. And this guy in a few minutes had just completely reminded me that lesson, that conversation I still remember to this day so clearly, and it just put me back on track, you know. And I just gave him the biggest hug and said, thank you so much for doing that. And because really for him to put himself out there and get himself off that couch when he was depressed is a much bigger feat than me going there and doing what I did, because, you know, I'd trained and I'd done a few before. So yeah, what he did was incredible.
Well, that's a great intro to sort of pan out a little bit and talk about how this all came to be and the mental health component of it, which is the big driver of why you're doing this and the reasons behind it. So where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so it kind of first started, Cedar Summit started, it was actually thought up by a friend of mine, Ryan Pellett, and he's got the craziest ideas and the craziest schemes. He's hilarious. He's the ultimate optimist. If you're like, oh, we're not going to make it, he'll be like, yeah, we will. Or like, oh, I don't know about this plan, you know, it's probably more like 5 days, not 2. And he'll be like, nah, sweet as. Yeah, I love it. It's just raw enthusiasm. But the problem is he has a lot more life commitments, you know. So I was, when I started, just a single guy and had no kids and no mortgage or anything like that. So I just had, no commitments, whereas Ryan had a lot of those commitments. So we're in different places, but he thought up, it was like, imagine doing this. And he realised that it hadn't been done before. And I know now why it hasn't been done, because it's really hard and it's super ridiculous. But he told me about these and was like, oh yeah, I just kind of laughed it off originally because I was just like, it's just stupid. But I was down in Taranaki, and what I was doing down there is I'd actually had a girlfriend, and she had dumped me like out of nowhere. I just I didn't really see it coming, because I thought we were like, you know, this is it for me for life. And the reason why she dumped me is because I'd kind of like changed throughout our relationship. Like I've always been outdoorsy and adventurous. That's my career, you know, like as an outdoor teacher and guide, and I was always off doing crazy things. But through the relationship, I'd kind of become more what she was into. I was living in Eden Park and going into town and cared about like clothes and just a few things, and I just had lost that adventurous side of myself. And she's like, wow, you know, like you changed and it's just different. And I was like, wow. And I didn't realize it at the time because it happened so slowly, you know. So I went off to Taranaki to do this big, you know, soul searching kind of adventure. And but yeah, I was distraught, like, you know, the whole way down, you know. It's just like, oh, what have you done? And I just remember I was surfing, and I was and it was pumping, like it was just so epic. And I was trying to be all sad and depressed, like I was trying to paddle out. I don't know if it was tears or the water splashing against my face, but it was all, you know, water was going down my face. I'm paddling away. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, she dumped you. You're useless. You're stupid. All this stuff. I was like, oh man, how are you gonna, you know, get on from this? And then it was actually, and then I caught a wave, And I was like surfing this wave, but I was trying to be all sad and like upset. I'm like, oh man, no, you got to be broody, you know, like you've just been dumped. But the wave was real good, and I started like going down the wave, and I'm smiling. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, yeah. I'm like, yeah, flying down the wave, and then I'm like, oh no, Dave, you've got to be upset. And I'm like, oh. So I paddle back out again, and I'm sitting there with my lip hanging out, trying to be all upset. Next wave comes, it was even better. Flying on the wave, you know, get a little cover up. I'm like, oh, this is sick. I'm like, yeah. Next thing you know, I'm like paddling around smiling and hooting and laughing. And I'm like, why are you trying to be sad? You know, like, what are you doing? Just let yourself go and kind of accept this moment. And I was just like, oh. And then it all kind of changed. I got perspective. I'm like, this is what makes you happy. This is what you need to be doing. And I just sat out the back of the surf. And I just remember just that feeling of just kind of, there we go. Like, what you need to do something to get yourself back. And I looked at the mountain, and Mount Taranaki was like right there. I was like, all right, yeah, going to see to summit there. And yeah, and then rummaged through the van and kind of made a plan, and a mate joined me. And next thing you know, the next day we started at midnight and summited around about 1 p.m. Did a cedar summit of Taranaki, and that was kind of that journey of self-discovery again, that finding myself. I know it's all cliches, but it's so true in this thing. And then, but unfortunately, I got back from that trip and learnt that a friend of mine had lost his battle with depression. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, I'd just gone through this huge epiphany and this massive life moment, and then I came back and heard that, and it was pretty soul-crushing. And I was just like, wow, you know, like, I kind of could relate a little bit to how this can happen, and just started thinking, man, maybe I could do some of those cedar summits that Ryan was talking about, and do it to raise money and awareness for mental health. I didn't think I was going to do them all. I just thought I'd do like one or maybe two, you know. Yeah. And that's pretty much how it all kicked off, because I've learnt that if I was doing it all for myself, you know, you give up, you're only really letting yourself down. But by attaching something bigger than yourself that you really believe into it takes you to some pretty extreme places, and has pushed me to do things that I never even thought I'd be possibly able to do.
Yeah.
So, I've digested a lot of content in the last 24 hours in research for the pod. There's a really powerful clip of yourself, and I'm not sure which failed attempt it was in South America, but I might be putting words in here, but I think you've done a presentation in Rotorua around it, about that kind of definition of failure, which at the time felt like failure, but then you've got a bit more kind of perspective around it afterwards, right? Yeah,
that's right. So like that kind of comes to play the words success and failure, you know. And I guess if you're looking at it, the easiest way to say that your mission was successful was to actually summit. Yep. So it's like, sweet, I summited. That means that mission was a success. But if I remove myself from the equation and remove my ego, then really, for it to be successful is to be able to learn something that's going to help me promote the cause and share my journey and have these lessons, you know. So Aconcagua is a mountain there. I hate it. It took me 3 goes to climb it.
So just to kind of perspective, like, after Taranaki, that's the first one that you've tried?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I got a year sabbatical off work, and then shot off to South America. And I started off with Aconcagua because it's just under 7,000 meters, and I knew that there's no point doing them all if I didn't work well at altitude. So I was like, I'm going to do the second highest one first, because then I know if I work at altitude, then it's even, you know, you don't want to find that out at the end. So so I started off with that one, and it wasn't that far from the coast, and there's really awesome surf in Chile. So I was like, well, I'm going to go over there, catch a few waves, climb an epic mountain, learn a bit about myself, and then start it that way. And technically, it's not the most technical of the mountains. So if you get a good run and a good weather, you can climb it quite simply, straightforward. That's what I thought anyway. And yeah, so I guess that dealing with that first failure that I had, was really hard because I hadn't really even thought that I was gonna fail. Like I hadn't even really registered that is even a possibility. It was almost like, after this one, or on the next one, you know. So I remember when I had to turn around and lying down in my tent, and I took a selfie at the time. I didn't want to, but I just knew I had to kind of document this moment in some way, or this feeling. And you can just see it on my face, like I was just completely distraught, you know, and I was just like, man, I failed, this is the worst thing ever. How am I going to tell my friends and my family and my sponsors and people that have supported me and donated that I've failed? Because that was the worst part. I'm like, people have supported and donated money to mental health, and I have to come back and say I didn't even do it. I was just like, what am I going to do? And then what happened after that is actually quite sad. I'll tell some fun stories after this. It gets a bit heavy, and then don't worry, there's some fun yarns. Another mountaineer. So that day, I'd been going for 28 days, and the only summit window was going to be this day, and the wind was below 30 kilometers. That was the limit. Sweet. And then there was a storm coming in. It was going to be 5 days of storm, and we'd just been in a storm, so it was my only chance. So me and about 14 other people attempted to summit from the second camp below, because we couldn't get up to the high camp just because of this last storm, knowing that our only shot was this day, the small weather window. And one by one, as we were walking, like everyone started turning back because they knew that the summit wasn't on, and the wind was up too high, and I just couldn't deal with it. I was like, nah, I'm going to keep going, you know, I'm hardcore, I've come here from the coast, no wind's going to turn me back. Such an idiot. But was walking, and then and this lovely Swiss couple was like, Dave, it's not on, there's no window, the wind, you can see the cloud, like it's too windy, you've got to turn back. And I was just like, no, I need to find this out for myself, I'm going to keep going. And then I remember these two guys coming down, and one of the guys was stumbling away. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, is he all right? And you could tell, like, he had onset of altitude sickness. And the other guy's like, no, he's okay. I'll get him down. And I saw them go, and then they caught up with the Swiss team, and they all got down. I was like, okay, so I kept going. And I just was like, man, that guy seemed a bit wasted. And then I kept going. And then a couple of hours later, I got to the ridge, and it was just way too windy, like everyone had said. And I was freezing, and I was alone. I just remember sitting down and going, you're an idiot, you know, ego's got you here, like you'll put yourself in danger. But that thought of failing was just in the back of my mind the whole time, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And then I just realized at that point, I sat down and knew that I had to turn back, or else I'd just die, you know. And I never felt more alone, and I just turned back, and that walk down to the tent was the hardest walk I've ever done. Because I was just like, you know, just felt terrible. And then I jumped in that tent, and then was lying there, and then I heard some ruffling and some screaming and a few things around camp. And the guy that was stumbling down, he ended up, suffering from altitude sickness, and we were kind of stranded at that camp. And I got out of my tent, and I literally just watched him slip away. And he passed away just a couple of meters away from me. And that just straight away put everything into perspective. It was just like, wow, you know, I'm laying in my tent, self-loathing, and there's a guy passing away a few meters away, and that just put that whole day into perspective of, like, you've got to really treasure life and think about what you're doing, and know that your actions are going to affect others, and it just gave me this, like, crazy feeling of just understanding that the mountain has won this day, but it's all good, you know. And then we had to carry the guy down to a lower camp so it could the helicopter could get him, because the helicopters can't go too high because of the rotor blades. And I was pretty messed up still, because obviously exhausted after a month of adventuring and not summiting and seeing that, and just so many emotions. And I finally got off the mountain, and the first thing that is right next to the road, that the track that in the mountain, the other side of the road, is the graveyard of all of the people from Aconcagua that passed away. And I realized, I'm like, that guy is going to be there. And I was like, and I could have been there if I didn't turn around. And then it just hit me, and I'm on a bus because I've finished walking now. I was like, I just want to bus to Mendoza and go and have a whole bunch of wine and just, party and try and get the mountain out of my brain. And I'm just sitting on this bus and I'm looking at this graveyard, and then I just start crying, like hysterically. And then there's this lady sitting next to me, like freaking out. She's like, what's this guy up to? Yeah. And I'm just like disheveled, and I'm just like, wow. And that's when I had the thought. I'm like, did I fail? I turned around because the weather window wasn't on. I'm on the bus. I'm alive. Was that a failure, or was it a success? So I think about that, and I realized that the most successful thing I did on that whole journey was turning around. And it gave me the ability to learn from those moments and share these stories and realize that, it's bigger than just you trying to get that moment.
It seems like from the outside, like the story is incredible feat of physical fitness and running and climbing, but really it sounds like it's all about mental, like understanding the mental side. You're doing it for mental health, which is one side of it, but then you're talking about understanding what is failure, what is success, dealing with pushing yourself to keep going. What's the thing you've learned the most about mental strength, or the way that you think differently now as a result of these experiences?
I think the thing I've learned the most is everything I've learned about myself. So I kind of know now, like say if I'm running multiple marathons, I know when I'm fatigued and when I actually need to stop. Like your body sends you these little signals. Originally, like most people like run and they're like, oh, I'm tired, I need to stop. But there's so much more in your tank. That's just your body not wanting to run anymore, so it tells you you're too tired. But like it's understanding that compared to you're about to collapse.
Yeah.
And so you learn so much about your little signals that your body gives you and things like that. And I've also just learned more about the big question, the why. And actually I started off doing it for a cause that I didn't understand, but I just related to because I knew it was important. Whereas now, after these journeys that I've been on physically and mentally, I actually understand and can relate to the cause a lot more because of it, and that makes it a lot more organic and just really fit well.
Meaning you had periods of real darkness that you sort of struggled with?
Yeah, just dealing with those failures or the non-summits, and then post-adventure blues is a real thing. Like you come back from that Russian adventure, you've got all the this craziness has just happened for a month, and then you come back and next thing you know I'm in my classroom in front of year 10s and just teaching them like normal. I'm like, it plays tricks on your mind. You're like, how do you go from that to that again within the space of a couple of days? I think we just need so much more time to decompress than we ever let ourselves do. And you can see it in the grieving process. It's like, bang, 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 move on. But it's like, we really do need that decompression time. And when we don't do it, it does just affect you somewhere else. So, the biggest lessons I've had from this have mainly been about myself and my priorities and what really is important and things like that. But I personally can't say that I suffer mental illness, but some of the places I've been to have allowed me to understand mental illness. And I also now know how powerful the mind is. It can be incredibly powerful. Like, your mind gets you to places more than your body does. Most of the feats that I've done have been from mental strength. But at the same time, your mind can be destructive. So it can be powerful and destructive. So it can take you to some places and destroy you in a lot of ways before your body will as well. So
a big part of your message is to do with mental health and speaking out, if you have issues and seeking support. So you started this sort of campaign in 2013, now obviously 7 years later. How much has that message changed over the years, and how much has sort of New Zealand become more aware of the issue, and what have you noticed along your sort of fundraising push?
Yeah, that is a really good question, and I definitely think in that 7 years it has changed a lot, and I think we're heading the right way. There's some amazing people out there campaigning for it now, and like the talking in schools and like the people are kind of understanding that to show vulnerability is actually a strength, not a weakness, because it's harder to show vulnerability than to hide it. So really, that's how we should see it as society. Like, if this person's prepared to actually show that they're vulnerable, they should be seen as strong, not as weak, which is how it's always been. And I think that shift's starting to happen now. And guys like Mike King and stuff, the work that he's done around, and it comes from people that people look up to, and then they say, hey, this is what's actually going on, you know, instead of just going, oh yeah, nah, she'll be right, you know, like what we always do, and just, oh, how was that climb? And like, it might have been the worst thing ever, and you're like, yeah, not too bad, eh?
Yeah.
And I think that just needs to change, because it's not really healthy that way.
Yeah.
And but I'm still learning about myself. It's like, I'm not done. I haven't clocked myself yet in any way, shape or form. And I think I often get asked what's you know, you hear all of the crap stories and how hard things were, but it was like, what keeps you doing it as well? Like, besides from the course, obviously, but personally, if I'm thinking intrinsically, one of the main things that keeps me going is the unknown. Like, I get so excited. The training sucks. Like, running around, most of my training's been in like Mt Elbrus or Otahu and places like that. And coming down to Raglan has been way better, but a lot of the training kind of sucks. Just running when you don't really want to run, or doing all that sort of stuff, or going to places that you've been a million times and just stair climbing. But I get so excited when I'm just about to leave, because I'm like, what is going to happen? Like, you plan it, you look at all the logistics, you do all your research, but you know somewhere along the line you're going to get held in a room and there's going to be a Georgian guy about to throw you against the wall. Yeah. Or there's going to be like some epic moment that you're just, you know, have this huge life epiphany and all your priorities flip around. So for me, intrinsically, the thing that excites me the most about Sea to Summit 7 is the crazy unknown thing that's about to happen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the other things Mike Boston said we need to press you on, and he said you'll probably try to downplay it, so get him to talk about it because it's incredible. It's again on that first attempt at...
Go on, mate. You got this. Go on.
Aconcagua.
Yeah, Aconcagua. Just say Acon.
Mount Acon. He says that there was heat stroke, and that he'll likely talk down just how sick and close to disaster he came, but press him on it because it's a tale worth telling.
Yeah.
Is this what you said earlier, that it pays to run the marathon, not walk the marathon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can kind of tell the story now because Mum knows it. Whereas I definitely... And that was exactly... So when I did it, I tried to downplay it because I thought it was embarrassing. So I didn't want like my sponsors finding out, or my parents, or anyone worrying about me, because it really is kind of stupid. But it shows how you've got to ask for help. So my plan was to walk the marathon today fully loaded. So Alpine style is when you take all of your mountaineering gear, you take absolutely everything for the summit from the start. So I was walking...
I feel like that's a lot.
I was walking through the Atacama Desert in Chile, from the coast, with almost 27 kilos on me. Like, so I was walking through the desert along roads with ice axes and all my mountaineering kit, when I could have sent it to the start of the track of the mountain.
That's a lot, isn't it? 27 kilos.
It was stupid. It was really stupid. So it's like almost 40 degrees Celsius, and I'm carrying all that stuff when I just left the coast and I just finished the surf like a couple of days earlier.
It's got to put a lot of pressure on your knees and joints, doesn't it? Just that extra weight. It's crazy.
Also, am I right in thinking there's no international rule book on what is or isn't acceptable in a Cedar Summit? So right, so it's kind of self-regulating.
Yeah. No one's done it, so I was setting their own rules myself. Yeah. And I think looking back, it was kind of my ego set.
Is that a bit of bravado?
A bit of bravado, like to go, I did the first ever Cedar Summit of Aconcagua Alpine style.
Yeah.
So Alpine style, it's carrying all your stuff, Whereas most people, they use, they'll obviously have their stuff at the start of the track, but they'll use a donkey or a mule, and the donkey and the mules can carry up to 40 kilos. And that takes all your stuff in, and you walk in with a small bag, and then that stuff meets you at your camp, and then you start climbing from there. But yeah, the first...
nowhere to go.
Just navigation. I'm a
No, the donkeys.
Oh, the donkeys. Oh, they've done it. They follow the main guy on
Oh right,
on the
so
horse.
it's not like an unaccompanied donkey.
They do the trek every other day, so they know it off by heart.
Do you reckon they know?
I think so. Yeah, they're pretty smart.
Ah, fuck me, we're going to begin, are we? All right,
yeah, exactly. Pretty much. They love going down. They're going up sucks.
Yeah.
But so I decided to do it with no support whatsoever. Not even a donkey support or anything, and just do it from the coast. So I was trying to cover like 40 odd k's a day with 28 kilos on my back, and no support. I was sleeping on the side of the road when I'd get too exhausted. If there was no place to stay, I'd just pitch a tent in a ditch. I remember one day I stayed in a ditch behind a service station, and I was washing my clothes in the sink and going, Dave, how the hell did your life get here? And people would walk in, they'd look at me and be like, oh man, this scary homeless guy. And I'm like grinding my undies out. That was so gross in the sink.
Big beard and long
Big beard.
hair.
And and I got a mattress in a ditch behind the... Yeah, and I was like, whoa. but because I was trying to raise money for mental health, I was trying to do the whole thing on a smell of an oily rag, Most of it's been self-funded, so trying to do it cheap. So I was walking, and then I again, I think like it seems to be a recurring theme, but my ego may have crept in, and I was like, what can you do in a day? If you start at 5 a.m, how many Ks with your 28 kilo pack do you reckon you could do? And I walked 57k with the pack on through the heat of the day and finished at 11 p.m. And I got to the final place, and I needed a bed this night. The only bed I could find was this place that you paid by the hour to sleep in. I get there and I'm like, do you have accommodation? He's like, oh yeah, how many hours? And I'm like, what? I was like, I don't know, 8. And he's like, where's your friend? And I'm like, it's just me. And then I clicked that I was in a brothel. But I don't care. It was 11 p.m. and I've been walking for 57k. And I just fell into that bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was a pretty big day. But then, I woke up the next day, and I felt really weird. Like, I wasn't hungry, and I wasn't even thirsty. And I realised I hadn't even gone for a piss, even though I'd had 10 litres of water for 18 hours or something. And I remember touching my skin, and it was just white, and it wouldn't bounce back. And I was just like, oh, this is no good. And I realised that, hey, I only have 25k to do today because I shaved off heaps the day before. So just get it done, harden up, and you'll be right. I'm walking, and I was 7k's in, and I just started getting dizzy as. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I collapsed on the side of the road. And there's a desert, so there's no shade. So I'm just lying there, and I wake up, and I'm collapsed on the side of the road. I'm like, oh my gosh. Pull myself up, keep walking, and I get dizzy again and fall over and take my front pack off, because I had a backpack and a front pack to carry all the way. And I just put my thumb up and then just passed out. And I don't remember too much, but I remember, I don't know how long it was after that. I'm just getting dragged along the road. And I'm like, oh, and this short, quite robust Chilean lady is just dragging me into her car. And I'm like, she'd already taken my bags. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just like, and then she chucks me in the passenger seat and just hoons off. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done? And then I just vomit all in her car. And I'm just passed out in my own vomit in her car, and she's speeding along the motorway. I'm like, oh no! And then she finally gets to this place, and I'm like, and she helps me out of the car, and I get there, and she worked at a health resort, so I'm like, and then she opens this door, and there's a room, and in this room was a massage table and a banana, and I'm like, okay, but I realized, I'm like, where's this going? But I realized that the floor was tiles, so it was a tiled floor. So I'm like, yeah. So I take off all of my clothes and just start rolling around on the tiles because they were cold. And I'm rolling around on the tiles, and then I just vomit and pass out. And I woke up 18 hours later or something, and then I ate the banana, and I realized that that's what it's for. And yeah,
okay, that makes sense.
That
makes sense.
And
I woke up and the banana was gone.
And then her name, her name was Marjorie. And to this day, she was my angel. She was my guardian angel that day. And I kind of realised how close I came to actually dying of a heat stroke. Because if she hadn't grabbed me, I just would have stayed on the side of the road there. There was a full blown heat stroke. And then that was my first epiphany that I needed to ask for help. I'm like, you are not a specialist at walking through deserts. You know, you're not a specialist at what you're doing. You're just a Kiwi guy with a dream. So you should probably ask for advice and support and help and get rid of your ego. So I was like, oh, sweet. So I started, Googling and just emailed a whole bunch of people, and I emailed nutritionalists and all of this stuff, and then found a better diet that would work for what I was doing, how to get my electrolyte replacements, just all of that. And then after 2 days rest, I got her to drop me off to that exact spot that she picked me up, and then I kept walking from there.
You mentioned at the start of that story you can tell it now because your mum's heard it. Does that mean you didn't tell her for a while because she would be worried about you
on future expeditions?
Yeah, and I was embarrassed, you know, like it's a pretty stupid mistake. But
embarrassment's a motherfucker, like.
Yeah.
Like just being paranoid about what other people might think about what sometimes are kind of really insignificant things.
Well, I told myself that the whole purpose of what I was doing, because I have a blog, you know, I'd give up daily updates and tell everyone what was going on, and I downplayed it and just said, you know, like, had a bad day, and I was just like, what are you doing? The whole purpose of this was to share open, honest, and a vulnerable account of what these actually are, and I wasn't doing it, you know, because I was too afraid of how it would look. So straight from the outset, 1 week in, I was already not doing what I had set out to do. But and it made me realize that actually showing vulnerability and admitting your stupid mistakes and stuff is way harder than I thought it was. Like the physicalness I could handle, I'm like, I can, you know.
It's again like you think of these things at the time as failures, right? Like heat stroke is terrible, you nearly died, you know, there's a snowstorm, your climbing buddy passed away. But then you think of everything that you've learned because of it, right? Like we're talking about lessons that have come of now how prepared you are to attack these adventures. It seems like good things come from these really terrible situations.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like, you know, I've got a tool belt on, and all of these lessons, or all of these different things are just extra tool in the belt. And I know that for Everest, I'm going to have to run 40 marathons in 40 days, and then it's a couple of months to climb it. And Antarctica, it's 45 days towing a sled across Antarctica before I even get to the mountain. It's over a month to climb there. So imagine if I'd arrived to do those with a half full tool belt, you know? So now I understand that all of this journey and all of these lessons have been really necessary. And if I hadn't have not summited on a few of these missions, I think I would have gone into them way more dangerously and naive, and probably found myself in a way worse situation. That's what happened.
So you miss Acon.
Acon,
Oh, shit.
like the amazing R&B singer, just say Acon.
Yeah, who's lit up Senegal.
Yeah, exactly.
With electricity
Lonely.
from his own. You got it.
I miss the lonely.
You come back to New Zealand. How long before you jump on a plane and head over to Tanzania to try and tackle Kilimanjaro?
So the first one, because I took the whole year off, so I flew to Aconcagua. Afterwards, I spent a couple of months just missioning around South America, just having some fun and
Machu Picchu,
touristing.
Machu Picchu.
Did a bit of that, and just a bit of surfing, and met some really cool cats.
Galapagos. You get up to the Galapagos?
Nah, I didn't have enough money for that sort of carry on, you know.
Yeah.
And then from there, I flew to Perth. I went to Perth for a few reasons. One was I knew that I was going to be running through Tanzania, which is over 40 degrees, and I learnt my lesson from that heat stroke. So I'm like, I need to train in a hot environment to then run 10 marathons in consecutive days across Tanzania. So I was like, if I go to Perth, I can do that. I can train in the afternoon in Perth. It's the same temperature as Tanzania at 5 a.m. And also my best mate Mitch was over there, so I kind of had a place to stay, or at least get established. And also I'd met a girl and kind of chased her over there. So it all seemed to line up. So,
just to train for 10 marathons in 10 days, are you doing 10 marathons in 10 days?
No. So, you work up to it, or else you just, wreck your body kind of thing. There's a few freaks out there that can do some pretty incredible things like this, but I'm not a natural runner. I have to train, you know.
But do you do marathons in successive days?
So my biggest week leading up to it was a 200 kilometer week. Yeah, so that works out. Yeah, it was like 204 kilometers. So it's pretty much almost 30k a day for every day. but I think I had one rest day in that. So there was, most of them were like 40 odd Ks. So
Is that so you know you've got it in your locker?
Yeah.
To be able to do it.
A lot of those days you split your run, so you might do like a 10k fast one in the morning, and then you might do a really slow sort of 30 in the evening, and then you might do some intervals one day, and then so you got to train all different ways so your body learns how to recover.
Yeah, what are you doing for recovery? You doing ice baths, compression, socks?
Lots of compression clothing at the time, lots of massage.
2 day rest and a banana.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, mate, that'll do it. Yeah. No, foam rollers, they're a godsend. But back then, I was younger and my body was just way harder. I didn't even need to do anywhere near as much recovery as I do now. And I think the reason why I need to do more recovery now is because I wasn't actually doing proper recovery back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But like 10 marathons in 10 days before Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Like on day 6, are you waking up and your body is just in all sorts?
Yeah. So I ended up doing 10 marathons in 9 days because I was just under 10 marathons. So I was originally going to run to one part of the mountain to climb, but then the person, the girl that was supporting me, she didn't want to do that route, which is fair enough because it was quite a tricky route. But that means that the next route was another marathon away. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to finish this in 9 days. So I was stuff it, I'll just do a double one on the last day. Yeah.
Sorry, so you did a double marathon in a day?
Oh, the last day was actually like 70k, not a double, but yeah.
How strong is your mind each day? Like, I guess you've got so much invested in it, and there's people supporting you and following your journey, that not doing it is not really an option.
No.
But is there any part of you that wakes up and thinks, Jesus Christ, another marathon today? I just don't fancy it.
Just every morning, really. But no, what I learned to do is desensationalize the word marathon. Like, I just told myself it was Wednesday and I was going for a jog, that helped. But for those 10, it was quite funny. Like the first one was easy because I was excited. The second one was, I was a bit ginger and I was like, oh my gosh, I still got a lot to go, but body's still okay. That third and fourth were terrible. Like, I was tired, I was fatigued, I didn't want to do it. It was hot. I was just like, man, this is learning some lessons, figuring out diety stuff, trying to recover properly, but still want to go and see things afterwards. And
because if you're running from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m,
you got the rest of the day to to recovery, go for walks. That walks really helped, and then just visit the little villages and the communities and things like that. So 3 and 4 were terrible, and then I just started thinking, I'm like, well, you got to do it, right? And then I realized, you've done 3 in a few days. Like, don't tell yourself you're running a marathon. Just say that it's Thursday and this is your routine, and you're just getting up and going for a walk and going for a run, and realize that you're going to have heaps of the day afterwards to do other things, even though I was just too tired to. But yeah, and that's what changed it. I remember 5 and 6, the easiest day 7. I was just like, I think I did like 4-hour marathon, 4-hour. I got faster as it went on.
Really?
Yeah, my slowest marathons at the start because I was so conservative, because I was like, it was the unknown.
Yeah. And
then I just got faster and faster. So my fastest marathon was the 9th day, the 8th day, second to last one. Yeah, it was
no way.
Sweet, because I knew that I was almost at the end.
Yeah. And what was the time on that fastest one?
That was 4 hours 10, I think, on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
decent
but it was
pace.
straight. Yeah, still all right. It's still running the whole time, like no walking at all.
Yeah.
But
can you see the mountain getting closer every day, or does it not really kind of change perspective until you're at the foot?
The mountain was in cloud for the last few days, so that kind of sucked. I saw it on one of the days, but I remember one day, it took me 3 days to turn a corner. That's the road that I was running on. So that was pretty lame. It was like day 4, 5, and 6 until I finally turned the corner. I remember I could kind of see the corner miles away. I knew it was there because of the map, and all I could think about was the corner. Yeah. I was like spending a few days running in my head, these marathons. I was just like, man, the corner's not far. I might even see the corner tomorrow. This is going to be epic. I'm running along it, and I remember seeing it. I'm like, the corner, and it was just like a corner,
Yeah.
And I was like,
back to straight.
Are you running with listening to music
music,
audio books or podcasts? Or?
Yeah. Podcasts weren't that huge back then, but I wish they were. Like, I would have you know, but I love podcasts now.
Yeah.
There's this really cool podcast about these couple of guys, you know, between two beers.
Oh, hey, there it is.
Yeah. So I finally had that when I was running.
Imagine that. Yeah.
It depended on my mood. So usually in the morning I'd start off with a bit of like drum and bass or electronica just to like kind of get me out of bed and get me like smiling.
Yeah.
Even though my body was not smiling. And then I found, and then I just kind of ease it out, old school R&B and stuff like that as I was cruising. And then when I was like feeling you can't do this anymore, you want to walk, I'd like put on like metal and it would just like yell at me. It's like, you know, you go to walk and you got Pantera walk screaming in your ear. Okay, I'll run.
Yeah.
You know, it just keeps you moving. So definitely music is awesome, mate. It really helps.
So loved it so much that you stayed on for another 3 months to volunteer at a centre to educate street children.
Yeah. I stayed in a little town called Iringa and worked with a place called Fish, which is a centre for street children. In Tanzania, even public school you have to pay for. So these guys were kind of waiting to be sponsored. But while they're waiting, they needed to have education. So, just worked there and helped teach them a bunch of different things just to kind of keep their education going. So hopefully they ended up picking up some sort of sponsorship or got a place in a school.
That wasn't something you'd planned on though? Or it was.
Yeah, it
Before
was.
you'd even started, you were going to do that?
Yeah. Well, not that one. I was going to volunteer. I started volunteering at another place called Nema Crafts, and it was where people were in Tanzania, if you had like polio or you were disabled in a certain way, you weren't really accepted in society. So they were kind of shunned away. So this place, Nema Craft, they took all of the type of people that had some disabilities and they taught them a really useful craft that they could do. And then the shop would then sell the crafts that the people had made, and that would just continue funding them rehabilitating other people, and then until they could go out and go back into the workforce with a skill.
Right.
So I did some work for them first, and that's when I kind of stumbled across the other organisation, the Centre for Street Children, Fish, and then started working there too.
So just going to jump around a little bit. So there's 7 summit attempts. You've completed 4.
Yes.
And so there's 3 to go, but the most recent one, talk us through what happened there.
Basically, I got my ass kicked for 5 weeks in Alaska. Yeah.
It's like I've done a little bit of research on this. That seems quite a unique expedition in itself. It's not your kind of traditional, not that any of these really are traditional cedar summits, but reading through like some of the other ones, they seem like a little bit more straightforward than Alaska looks on paper.
Yeah, I think Denali really highlighted the missing bits in my toolkit, which is awesome. Because, like I learned more technically in Alaska than I have on any of the others. For Denali, you can't just fake it till you make it. You really needed a pretty good set of skills. So, I had a lot of bad luck as well, but definitely I don't think I was as ready for it as I thought I was, which is a great lesson in itself. Mainly because we went early. So the plan, I think it was 4.5 marathons got me to the snow line. And then as soon as I got to the snow line, then the idea was to put on, I've got a split snowboard, like skis, but it splits, and then to skin from the snow line into base camp, which was going to take 10 days. And then from base camp, it's a 3-week climb. So that was the plan. And I went in May because it was still so cold and there was so much snow and ice at that time that the rivers weren't broken up, they were frozen over. So it means that we could like just skin straight over the frozen river and a whole way in up the glacier. And also the crevasses are a bit more filled up with snow and compact. So it meant that the approach, that 10-day approach, was going to be much easier and much more straightforward. But it meant that we were going to be climbing the mountain a whole 2 months early in the season, which meant freezing conditions. So it made the approach easier, but it made the climb harder in a sense. So that's why we went in early. I went with Mike Boston on this one, and then my friend Matt Trotter, he's a Canadian mountaineer. He was going to meet us at the mountain for the climb. So I was doing the run by myself with that guy Rich again, and Mike came to like do some filming, and they just cruise around in a camper van drinking beers and filming from the drone. So they had a great time.
Let me just read what Mike has said about this. He said, "This one really scared me. Dave had already done a couple of world first cedar summits by now, but Denali was a whole new beast. There is good reason why nobody has ever done that one in that fashion. Denali definitely did its best to beat us back and gave a good for at trying to kill us on a few occasions. Fires, grizzly bears, melting snow, running low on supplies, breaking into gold mines, the ridiculous crevasse-laden glacier, and all that before we even got onto Mount Denali itself. Then came the overnight rock falls, the minus 50 degrees Celsius storms, etc., etc. It was a humbling experience I'll never forget." Now, the part that grabs me on that is grizzly bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
we were 3 days in on our approach, and we got up, and I just remember zipping the tent open and opening the flap and taking one step outside, and I just saw this grizzly print that was like only 2 meters away from the tent, and I was like, wait, what? That wasn't there yesterday, because I set the tent up. And so this gigantic grizzly
sniffing around.
Just sniffing around. We didn't even know. Like, he's so big. Yeah, but luckily we had all dehydrated food. One of my supporters, Radix Nutrition, they're incredible. They
Bloody good article too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, they did a good article about this particular trip. Together we came up with a special dehydrated food that would work for adventuring. So it was a lot more fat laden with coconut oils and things like that, just so, because I needed to arrive at the mountain without losing a whole bunch of weight. So I needed to keep my calories up, and so I had these special dehydrated meals that we'd formulated and put together, and we were just surviving off those, which was awesome, because if we'd had all of the other sort of food and mountain, I reckon that grizzly bear would have been a lot more inquisitive, eh?
are you trained to deal with these wild animals? What's the play?
Yeah, so
I don't think there is a playbook, is there?
No, I think that's what Mike said. He was
bear
trained.
spray. But Mike's a hunter. He's got his own company called Wild Guide, and he takes people hunting, and he loves it, eh? So he's...
I still don't think there's a playbook for dealing with a grizzly bear.
Well, surely you either play dead or you run.
Pisses it
There's
off,
got to be a better option.
That was what we thought. We're like, we'd seen The Revenant, and we know what happens if you don't do it right. Our play was just to...
You can't outrun them because they're super quick.
Yeah, just be still, be calm, let them do their thing, because we're not on their normal menu, you know. That was our plan. And
Piss your pants, I think, is one of the other ones they say.
I
googled that last night.
Okay, I should have done that. Maybe I did.
Don't climb a tree either, because they can.
Was that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he ended up just cruising past us, and then just didn't bother us. We had a pack of wolves on our tail as well.
That's wolves. Yeah, was the other one I wanted to know about.
We heard some howling, and then they just kind of got closer and closer, and then they seemed to leave us alone. But yeah, that was interesting.
This is slightly off piste, and I don't mean to hijack it, but did you ever consume a lot of the Bear Grylls stuff, or do you look at that and go, he's full of shit? Like, I've been there, I've done that.
Nah,
I'm never drinking water out of elephant dung.
I mean, if you're doing a lot of the stuff that he's doing, he's more portraying the only do it to survive type stuff. So if you're doing that, you've made a pretty few mistakes along the way. But I think a lot of that is also just for camera as well. But there's some really, really cool things he does too. So I can't take that away from him. But I don't know. I think
he didn't do a yak eyeball or anything like that, or come across a carcass and skin it and use it as a cloak.
I don't think so. Yeah. No, we did a lot of stupid shit, but I don't think that anything really like that. We ended up, so we broke into this we'd run out of food, because what happened is, even though we went early, it was meant to be overnight freezing. So that means that when you skin, you stay on the surface of the snow, so you can travel real fast. We're meant to do like 20 k's a day, but we had a whole week of really warm nights, and we'd get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to start our next skin. So you skin from like 1 till about 10 a.m, you know, and then you rest. And just step out of the tent and just fall through, because there's no freeze. So we're trying to move with you're towing a sled with all your gear. You got a backpack and a sled on. You got 50 odd kilos each, and we were just trying to push through knee-deep slush, and it just wasn't working. We just destroyed ourselves, and we just ate all of our food because we were so hungry. And because all the rest of our food was getting flown into the base camp. And so we ended up breaking into this miner's hut because the miners weren't there because it was no winter access. Right. And we're just like, oh man, we have to do this. Because we knew that probably the only food there was left over from last season and they're going to bring new food anyway. That's what we told ourselves. And we just broke into this miner's hut and like stole all their noodles and ate all of their stuff and left them a $20 New Zealand note. That's all we had, and just said, sorry mate. But yeah, that was kind of when we decided we got to the point where the river was meant to be all frozen up and it had broken up and we couldn't even skin over it because of this unseasonable couple of weeks of warm weather had made everything break up early, and all of the snow we just couldn't even move. We knew that if we kept going like this, it would have taken like 15 days at the amount of Ks that we were doing to even get to where we needed to go, and we didn't have supplies for that. And I think one of the number one rules with mountaineering and with adventuring is that you should never make decisions that mean that you're going to be a liability for others. So we were basically heading towards just being rescued anyway. So we made a decision. It's like either we stop, we raid this hut, take as much food as we can, and we turn around and get out on our own steam, or we continue on with the likely situation we get rescued. And yeah, so the responsible thing obviously was to turn around because we couldn't proceed anyway with the spring conditions.
I think I read somewhere in one of the articles you sort of spoke about how you found yourself getting frustrated because you were able to go faster than the guys you were with. And then reflecting on that, sort of had a bit of another moment of learning.
Yeah, so we ended up having to abort the approach, but we decided to still continue with the climb. And we flew into base camp and, super excited, good mates. So the team was me, Mike and Matt, and the same team, we all summited Aconcagua together finally, like a year before. So we'd had that amazing moment and we were like, yeah, we're the 18, And we went in and I was obviously pretty strong after all of the training that I've been doing, all of the running and towing that things that I was feeling like an absolute weapon, which was choice, And unfortunately Mike got a cold, but in altitude in Alaska, like a head cold is quite serious, It's not just like, oh, you got a little cold. This is like full on. His whole face was swollen. He's already, he looked hilarious. His eyes were just these gigantic puffy things. His hands were all swollen. He just couldn't even swallow, all of that. He was just full of a head cold. He was munted. And then he's like, nah, I'm alright. I'll keep going. And me and Matt were like, dude, you suck. You just lie there. You're alright, It is so. And then he started. The worst part about it all was how shit he felt. He felt like he was slowing the team down because he's a bit of a weapon himself, and he's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. He'd be to help you, and I'm slowing you down. But we're just like, nah, don't worry. So we ended up splitting his gear, and me and Matt together took his stuff up. You bury it, then you come back down. That's how it works. You take half your stuff up, you bury it, you come back down, then you bring your other half up. So you kind of camp your way up the mountain in 6 different camps. So we were doing that, and then Mike was munted for a few days, and we kind of took the slack and carried all of his stuff, and then he came right, and it was awesome. So I was like, yeah, sweet, okay, cool. And then just as he came right, Matt, the other guy, he started getting really sick from the altitude. And he started vomiting through the night and just feeling pretty rough.
What does altitude sickness look like?
What are the extreme headaches first? That's how it starts. So, you've got cerebral and pulmonary edemas, but they're that's the life-threatening kind of start. But generally, how it starts is you have really bad headache. You're dehydrated. You're nauseous. You basically start to feel a bit dizzy. And then the next kind of step is your vision gets blurry, and then it can get into something worse. So the only way to cure it, I guess, is either to go down or to just stay put and drink as much water as you can.
Right.
and just let your body adjust.
And it can take days.
Can take days, yeah. So Matt just wasn't quite adjusting. He personally doesn't do that well at altitude on his own admission, but he'd climbed Acon and he did really well. Just his body was just saying, I just need a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a rest.
What are you doing if you need 2 days to adjust and you're just there in a mountain in a tent? Are you reading books? Are you just lying down or telling jokes?
Yeah, telling jokes, playing cards. You don't want to take too many books up because they're heavy.
Yeah,
so you don't. Yeah,
Kindle.
You try. You're doing other initiatives. You make your palace better. So you build a massive barricade for your tent, and then you end up building like igloos and just tunnels, and you make your toilet into like the most insane throne ever. You're just doing things like this. But this is only when you get to the higher camp. Generally, you're exhausted after getting up to that camp. But we were up near that camp, and Matt was pretty sick. So then me and Mike kind of took a bit of his stuff and kind of carried the load there and did a bit more while he was able to recover for a couple of days. So when you're walking on Denali as well, you're walking 20 metres away from each other because you don't walk next to each other talking all day because you need to be spread apart because of the crevasses.
Yeah.
Because if you fall into a crevasse and your mate's 2 metres from you, he's probably going to fall into the same crevasse. So you walk ages away. So that if they fall into the crevasse, the person jumps down, creates an anchor, and then can pull you out safely. So
did that ever happen?
We had some little ones, but no big crevasse falls. You can kind of pick your way through them, but generally you fall in one on the journey. But we were pretty fortunate. But so you're kind of picking your way through and doing that, and then you're in your own head all day. Because you're by yourself, and then I couldn't help it after a week of carrying Mike's stuff because of his head cold, and then now Matt's sick, and I knew that another storm was coming and we were behind on our agenda, and I was already super embarrassed about not completing the approach, and just I wanted the summit more than anything because of the fact that I'd failed on the approach. I was like, at least I can get some retribution. And then I started thinking about how my mates are meant to be there to help me, and they're slowing me down, and how come they can't just be strong and sort it all out. And these are guys that had sacrificed a lot of their money, taken all of their leave, doing all of this because they believed in Cedar Summit 7 and also the cause of mental health. So they'd sacrificed a lot to be there, and they were in there just trying to help. And I was not really registering that, and I was just thinking that they were kind of making it a bit harder. And then it's just weird. Your mind just goes on a certain pattern or on a cycle, and you just keeps going and going, and and I just started becoming a real dick. Like I'd wake up, if it was my turn to cook something, I was like clanking the pans around and just like, whatever, are you? Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. Just they could tell that something was going on, and I was just being a bit of a dick,
like an angry partner in a relationship.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, I've been that guy.
That passive aggressive, So I was like, and then I remember Matt suggested, he's like, well, this isn't. Let's go to the edge of the world, which is this massive, like the world's largest cliff. It's like a couple of 1,000 meters you look down. It's just a sheer cliff. It's incredible. But it's not on the way. Like it's not part of the climb. It's an extra initiative. And I was just thinking about the summit. And I just wanted to be on the summit. So I was like, let's not do that because it's not the summit. No, we need to do this. And then they were like, okay. So we go to the edge of the world, and I was like, dragging my tail because it was like stupid, we need to think about the summit. And
what's the deviation from?
It's a whole day journey to get over to it, there and back. So I just thought it was pointless. But they all wanted to do it, so and I was just like pouting, And then I just remember getting there and standing on the edge of the cliff, and you never know how you're going to react to something till you see it, right? And just all three of us were just on this cliff and just all just going, oh my gosh, and hooting and laughing. And this is the first time in over a week we'd actually laughed and joked. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I have been such an asshole. And just kind of had that moment and was just like, oh, what am I doing? And I just turned to them and I was just like, oh, I'm sorry guys, I've been a dick. And then they were like laughing.
Like,
yeah, man. And I was just like, oh. And I just got lost in the summit fever, you know, just thinking about that and just other things, and just your mind just goes into funny places, and if you let it, you just keep going there, you know.
So how do you put the brakes on that? Other than like if you can't get to the edge of the world.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool place. But then when we were at the edge of the world and we're thinking that, and we just had that moment of I'm sorry's and got a little emotional and thinking it was and we took our little photos on the edge of the world and stuff, and then we sat down, and then this out of nowhere this jet plane, this like fighter jet, like because Alaska used that area, Denali National Park, is like to test their planes and things, what America do, and we're just sitting there and this stealth bomber goes over top, and we're just like, what the hell? It's just hovering over us, and then it goes and takes off, and then bang when it hits the speed of sound. And we're just like, whoa, because we're like, this is dangling off a cliff and the speed of sound, bang. We're just like, oh my gosh. And then another one came, and it was obviously like a choreographed dogfight. Yeah. So we're just like, holy shit, I'm in Alaska at the edge of the world, no one else around, on like the world's biggest cliff, with two of my mates who are absolute legends and have sacrificed so much to be here. And we just witnessed a random dogfight by the American military. It's like, Dave, get over yourself and just be happy in this moment and where you are, you know? Yeah. And that made me realise that, like, when you focus so much on something or a goal or a summit or whatever, you get so tunnel vision that you miss all of the epic stuff that happens in your peripherals. And, like, yeah, and then I just started seeing the mountain in a completely different way. I, like, got back to camp, and even I'd been at that camp for a week. And I was just seeing different things and seeing the beauty of the area. And I was walking around and introducing myself to people and saying hi, and, you know, just like all of that stuff. And I just got so consumed on something that it made me lose why I actually love the outdoors. And I love the outdoors because of its beauty and the lessons and the times that you spend with friends. And I wasn't doing any of that. So yeah, there's another one of those lessons. That was more one of those hindsight ones that I don't like telling that one because I don't come across very nice, but you know, it's just part of it, eh?
Yeah, it's what you learn.
So then, but you didn't summit Denali, did you? So at what point did that not happen?
So we parked up at camp, and that storm did come that we were talking about. It was just, and then we decided, we kind of came up with a bit of a plan. Matt never wanted to give in. He's a lot more experienced mountaineer than I am. He's incredible. And then he's like, the only way that we can do it is if we don't go to the highest camp and we summit from here, which meant like at least a 24 to 30 hour summit day, with some quite, you know, some really big stuff and some cold temperatures. And we were having overnight temperatures of -50, so it was really cold. And so it meant that you had to start earlier. Usually on those days you start kind of later in the day, so you're summiting when it's warmer. But we were going to have to start so early that our bodies would have been in that -50 type time zone for a long time before even getting into that warmer part of the day. So all of these factors, and at that time in May, you can't really summit unless it's 15 to 20 kilometre winds, because anything more than that, you get the wind chill factor on top of the temperature. So we found a window that was meant to be about 25 to 30 k's wind, and we're like, this is our only chance.
When you say you found a window, like, what technology is driving that decision making?
There's rangers there, and they kind of can relay some information, but we had an InReach device, and I had a guy, Graham Charles, who's a bit of a Kiwi legend, you know, he's like one of those outdoor gurus, and he was following our journey and helped out a lot and would send us weather updates and just give us these windows. So he was relaying this information and also relaying information back to people on the Facebook page and things of our progress. And he said, yeah, this is this kind of bit of a window here. And we decided this is our only chance because another storm was going to come. And then we would have run out of food if we'd stayed longer, and plus energy and just everything. So we knew this is our last shot. And we got up and we started walking towards the head wall, and we started going up the head wall and just saw a lenticular cloud form over the summit. And that cloud can't happen unless there's a lot of wind. And we just saw it, and you could just see the snow moving, and we just realised that where the window wasn't there, and it was too windy, and the storm would come early, and then it was that moment that, we didn't even really get a good attack on it, you know? So there's so much unfinished business there.
With all that you'd learned from your previous adventures, though, was it a different emotion or reaction that time than it would have been previously?
Yeah, because like for example, it kind of related to that Aconcagua one where I was like, it was too windy, but I just kept going until I got myself into trouble. Whereas this time it's just like, well, you know what's going to happen, so you're like, well, the weather has decided that this window isn't there. It's just not on. So the decision was almost made for you, which makes it a little bit easier to bear. Some people don't understand that. They're just like, I'll just climb it. But yeah, that it really is. The weather is everything. And I like to think of mountains, you don't climb mountains, they allow you an opportunity to go up them every now and then.
Right.
They have to let you up. You can't just force your way up.
Yeah.
And that was kind of in that situation there where but also all of the lessons that I've learned, like now if I went back and normally you climb in sort of June, July, and there's just you can climb with 40-kilometre winds even because the base temperature's a lot warmer, so you might have a base temperature of -20 overnight, -25, so you can summit with more wind, so there's more summit opportunities later in the season.
But what does that mean for the glacial part?
But then you can't, there's no snow for the skin in, the approach in, so you have
kayak or something?
you have to take a completely different route, which is another couple of 100 k's almost, or you do like a highline one, and that's kind of, so when I go back, I'm not going to go in May again. I'm going to do a late summit and make a longer, slightly different, harder approach, and then maybe even just get some, because the planes fly in over that glacier all the time and they can do glacier drops, so I might get my skinning gear, approach gear, dropped into the glacier, and I can just get to the glacier over land and then jump on that, and then so these are things that you learn, and you figure out, and you realise that you can ask for more help. Obviously it's not as hardcore as doing it alpine style or going from the start, and but realistically, it's just how I'm going to complete it. And then I like it because it leaves a bit of scope, so someone else could come along. I'd love it if they did. When I finish this, for someone else to come along and go, all right, he did it this way, I'm going to do it cleaner or more hardcore or faster or within 2 years.
Is there anyone out there trying to do this?
I have a person every few months contact me and say that they're going to do it or start it or whatever. Nothing's happened. No one's even gone close. One guy recently, he's like, and then I think he made it halfway on Australia, which is like one of the easiest ones, and didn't even make the Cedar Summit of Aussie. So so I really personally, I would love for someone to do it, because it would also motivate me to finish before they do.
So your last climb, this Denali was your last climb in April 2017. How come
May?
I started in April. Run was April, and then the climb was May. Yeah, but
no climbs in the last 3 years. Have we got another one planned? Did COVID offset some dates and times?
Yeah, COVID offset this year, so I was meant to be there now.
Really?
So I came back, and then I decided after Alaska I just wanted a year back in New Zealand to do some domestic challenges and just increase my technical climbing toolkit. So I was like, so a friend of mine, Lindsay Peake, he was doing the 10 most prominent ultra prominent peaks of New Zealand, so I've kind of joined that adventure with him. So I'm trying to climb the 10 most prominent peaks, which is the highest peak considering like the lowest point around it. So and that has some classics, obviously Mount Cook's in that, and Mount Aspiring, and then a whole bunch of other classic New Zealand mountains. And by the time you do all of those, some of them are quite technical, like Tudiko, so you end up like a well-seasoned mountaineer. So I decided I'm going to do an awesome domestic challenge just to really get myself better than what I need to technically, so if something goes wrong in those mountains, you don't just have adequate skills, you've got better skills than what you need. So that's been kind of a bit of a project for the last couple of years.
Are you doing some guided tours too? I saw on Samantha Hayes' Instagram it seemed like you were starring and leading her up some mountain. Where was that?
I'd like to lead her up a mountain, I'll tell you.
I don't think you can say that.
She is amazing, eh?
She's a big crush of mine. It's okay to say that, is it?
Oh, for sure. She's beautiful woman, and inside and out for sure. she actually wanted to climb Aconcagua, so she rang me up as a bit of almost like consultancy type thing, and I was like, well, you can't just go there. Let's do some climbs first.
Right.
So that's kind of how it started.
Okay.
And we just did a couple of. I took her up Taranaki first, and we climbed Ruapehu together and stuff. So yeah, I've done it. I do some guiding and like usually a couple of trips a year with a group of clients, and we'll go and bag an initiative somewhere or a peak and just teach them mountaineering. And I'm a tutor at Wintec on the outdoor certificate and diploma of adventure education. And on that, like next week, actually, I'm on Ruapehu for 4 days with our diploma students, and we'll be building snow caves and bagging peaks on Ruapehu and all of that. So
what does bagging peaks mean?
Oh, bagging peaks, it's like
drugs, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, you just go and get real high up on the mountain, you know.
Cash and checks and bagging peaks, you know what I mean?
The one. That's how I roll. No.
Is it like getting to the summit of somewhere?
Yeah, so Ruapehu's a volcano, and it doesn't just have one. Like everyone only thinks about the summits of a mountain, you know, whereas you look at a mountain, it's never just one perfect cone except for Taranaki, you know, or Fuji. Usually there's all sorts of other peaks and things going on, but everyone is always just thinking about the summit. So bagging peaks is just going up to the crater and just like finding different things to climb and different initiatives and things like that. So just introducing, so I've just really been loving for the last few years transferring my passion for mountaineering and the lessons that I've learned to others, and it's been great. And obviously I was meant to go back to Alaska this year after that kind of couple of years of doing some more domestic stuff, but with COVID I had to pull the pin on that.
So just waiting now to see how this global pandemic shakes out, to see when or where you're allowed to go?
Wow. Totally. The good thing is pretty awesome country to be locked in though, right?
Yeah.
We go, domestically, you can adventure your whole life in New Zealand mountains and you'd never even get anywhere near close to bagging all the peaks, you know.
Or New Zealand towns.
Yeah, exactly.
Raglan roads. Celebrating the drop in lockdown level 4 to level 3 by running every street in Raglan.
Oh yeah. I think it's important to have just little challenges to keep you going, and keep the momentum going and keeping your faith in what you're doing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, during lockdown I just looked at an overview of Raglan map and I was like, I wonder how many kilometres of road there are in Raglan, and I got Strava and I just worked it all out, and it's to run every single road and street in Raglan was 60k. So I started and just spent a day colouring the map in really on Strava. Started off at Hills Road and finished off at Whale Bay, and ended up being 57 k's. I managed to find better ways to doing it.
Yeah.
Originally, so and I raised a few grand for mental health. Just doing that, people just thought it was a cool initiative and followed, and yeah.
Yeah. So, was your goal to raise 100 grand for mental health?
Yeah.
How far along are we?
Yeah, I've raised about 20 grand so far, and I think it's funny. I set that goal when I was naive and just started off. I was like, I'm going to raise all this money, but I work really closely with the Mental Health Foundation, and any money you raise just goes into them raising awareness anyway. So I found that really the thing that is most important is the awareness and going around and talking. So I do a lot of talking at schools and events and different places around, and lots of speaking engagements, and just share these journeys and these lessons and other little side things. But obviously the money's still going, and I kind of think that eventually I will definitely raise 100 grand. Even if I finish the 7 summits and I'm at 70, I'll just keep going and telling stories until I get to the 100, So that's...
I've seen the media profile before Denali sort of built up, you're on a few different... I think there were maybe stories in the Herald and stuff, and I saw you on Crowd Goes Wild and bits and pieces. You figure as you get closer to the 7, or as you prepare for Everest or whatever, you start going to get some real exposure, and you feel like that momentum's really going to build. And
yeah, no, that's true. And I think people don't really know what a Denali is or an Aconcagua is, but as soon as you start saying Everest and Antarctica, it's something more tangible that they can relate to. So I kind of see it as 2 halves, really. The first half of these first 5, and the last half of those last 2, just because they're hectic. But also just because that's, I think it is definitely a momentum thing, and once the awareness, these first 5 are done, it's like, okay, he means business. This is serious. Like, he's got these 2 to go. Everest, every Kiwi can relate to Everest because of, obviously Seamus and Hillary, and our home away from home is Nepal in a lot of ways. And Antarctica as well. It's our neighbour just down south. So again, it's that attachment that we have as Kiwis to those 2 places. So it's just about doing that mahi to get these 5 done.
So you've got 3 to go. Lifestyle wise though, your life is going to change a little bit later on this year when you become a father.
Yeah.
Have you, again, our research indicates that you're very good at planning ahead. Have you factored in that change in circumstance into your future plans?
Yeah, probably one of my biggest adventures yet, right? I've delayed this long enough. Everyone's like, when are you going to do it? I was like, I'm 35 now. I'm like, I'm ready. I think I'm ready. But I think, 28th of November, the little baby's due. And I'm so excited about it, eh? Like, it's awesome. And I think really all of this just comes down to how incredible my wife Lynn is. And she met me and I'd already started Cedar Summit 7 as well, so that definitely helps. So she understands. And she's so supportive. She's supported it from day one. She understands what it is, what it's about, where I'm going to go, what it entails. She just kind of asked that I be sensible. With the baby, I know that I'm never going to do anything that's going to affect the family and the immediate family too much, but it's going to be a group decision. The baby won't make the decision. But it's very much still on the cards. That the immediate aim is definitely I want to go for 2021 if that's even an option. Probably a more sensible and likely option would probably be more like 2022. Then it's a bit older as well, and the world's settled down and stuff like that. And I've started, and kind of that career change as well. There's a lot going on at the moment.
Because how long away are you for one of these expeditions?
Denali, if everything goes well, Denali will take 5 weeks. That's like everything perfect, like all of the luck fitting your way. And that was the problem last time. I had 5 weeks and I only had 5 weeks. Like I couldn't have gone for 6, so I definitely needed a lot of luck as well. So what I'd like to do is have sort of 7 weeks up my sleeve, and obviously if it finishes early then fantastic. But it'd be cool for Lynn to come over. I was going
to ask, like for one of those ones like in Nepal where you're there for a few months.
Well, Nepal, what I'd love to do for Nepal is like I want to open it up and someone might come and run one of them, because it's 40 marathons. That's going to get boring too by yourself. Like, how cool would it be to
40 marathons?
That's a lot.
Let's just pause on that for a minute. 40 marathons.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But how cool would it be to open it up and have like 40 spaces where like people could come and like I run with someone different each day,
Great idea.
And they raise money for mental health or whatever charity that they believe in while they're doing it, and they can leverage off the exposure or whatever's happening. Like I really want to share that journey. So it's not just me doing a Cedar Summit of Everest, it's me and heaps of people, and we're doing it together.
Will that definitely be the last one? Will you do that last?
Ideally I'd do it last because it's kind of the roof of the world. You want to do it at the end.
Yeah.
But
man, that will get so much exposure. If you've done 6 and it's the 7th and it's Everest and you get people buying in and sponsors and mental health, like that'll be huge.
Yeah, and doing it as a community would be really cool. But I think there's a bit of we're putting together a bit of a doco at the moment with some filmmakers and stuff. So there's exciting things in the works, and to try and get some of that exposure going. So it's all seems like the momentum's picking back up again. But yeah, I think with I can't really be as picky. So if someone came along, like someone really rich or a big sponsor or a corporate sponsor, was just like, hey, I want you to do Everest next, I'd go, okay. Yeah, I'd just say yes, even though I hadn't done Denali and if the opportunity's there, you've got to do it, So if they were like, next year you're going to Everest, I'd just make it work and it would happen, even though it's not in my favourite order.
Same with if there's someone really rich who wants to buy the Between Two Beers podcast and said you've got to interview this person next, we'd do it.
Yeah,
we'd do it.
Yeah.
So
Or 40 people.
Yeah. We've got to pour ourselves out a little bit, to get the dream,
That's been amazing. Shay, how's our list looking?
It's good. We're closing in on 2 hours, and I know that's a mental barrier for you, but I think if we've learned anything, we've just got to get over that.
Okay.
We haven't spoken about Australia, and you mentioned kind of earlier that it's one of the easier ones. The thing I'm thinking about with Australia is everything in the bush wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Is that the case when you're going sea to summit? And I can't even begin to try and pronounce the Australian one.
Give it a go.
I'm going to have to find it here. Kosciuszko.
Kosciuszko. Well done. That's
Nice,
it.
bro.
Yeah.
No,
Or
nice.
Kosciuszko.
Yeah. Kosciuszko.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think we smelt too bad for the creatures to come near us, eh? That one, yeah, that was quite cool. That one I did with, so the guy Ryan Pellet that I talked about earlier, the one that kind of came up with this whole crazy idea, he did that with me. So it was quite cool because I was like, man, it was kind of his idea and his dream, and obviously he's helped me so much with it. He set up the website and a whole bunch of other things, and so I was like, I want to do one of these with him, like, and logistically for him with where he was at with his family situation, like Aussie was probably the most accessible. So we did Aussie together, and we didn't run the marathons though. We averaged 50k a day still, so a bit more than marathon, but we did it just like walking, because we were going through the bush, and it took us
When you say bush, it's proper bush, right?
yeah, we were on the road for the first half of the first day, and then it was just Aussie bush, piecing together little trails and paths, sometimes just walking in the middle of nowhere and just linking things up, and then so there was a good like 180 k's of we went from the lake's entrance near Melbourne, up the coast from Melbourne, and walked through Victoria into New South Wales, and then the summit's actually in New South Wales. So I think it was 5 or 6 days. I think it was like 280k or something like that, and averaging almost 50k a day.
Yeah, it's good numbers.
Yeah,
They stack up. They stack up with my research.
Yeah. So we did that, and then we did that together, which was awesome. I know he would have liked to have trained a bit more. he had some pretty big moments on that, and I mean I did too. But the craziest thing is this is how it works. This bloody mission. I was like, Aussie be easy. I've done way more hardcore things. This will be fine. Like, just totally downplayed it. It was just like, this is going to be a walk in the park. Then classic, we'd just been going for all of these, and we got horrendous weather. It was a full storm the whole way. It pissed down. All the rivers were swollen. We walked 180 k's through bush, and it didn't even stop raining almost, like, hardly at all. And we really had to consider whether we could even complete it because of the floods. All the rivers were flooding. We're like doing these ridiculous river crossings, swinging off trees to like get across the rivers. And then we got to the mountain, and then it was November, the start of November, and there was a snowstorm. It was knee-deep fresh snow on Kosciuszko in November, and the rangers are like, nah, it's closed, you're not allowed up there. And I was like, no, you don't understand, we've walked all the way from the coast, we're summiting. And they were like, no, you can't, it's closed.
Mental health.
Yeah. And they were like, no, you can't do it. And we're just like, oh, okay, we won't do it then. And then they walked away, and we just snuck around the building, and then just like went off. And normally like Kosciuszko, there's like a path, a lot of it's a boardwalk to get most of the way up. It's only 2,000 meters, and I was just like, this is the easiest. I downplayed it so much. We get there was over 100-kilometer winds, knee-deep fresh snow, complete whiteout, and it was closed. And we're like, what? So we had to do like full-on navigation, like alpine navigation, to even get to the summit, and it was a big day. We're trying to hold up the little flag that we made for Movember.
100-kilometer winds.
That's quick.
It was gusts of like, and we're like trying to hold this flag up, this Movember flag, because we grew moustaches the whole way. And we're like, and then it was just like flapping away. It was like, man, it's so funny. You say how you think about how it's going to be, and just like nature always finds a way just to like remind you not to underestimate it, and to really spend it in the works. But we came across a couple of snake skins and
condoms,
a few sort of spiders and things, but we never had to. Never really got all of the Aussie wildlife in its full venomous nature, but there were some wild brumbies that were kind of scary. It's like walking away, and then there's like a horse jumps out of nowhere. You're like, what the hell? We didn't get any of those drop bears. That didn't happen.
Are those real things?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I heard koalas can get pretty nasty, and they've got rabies. So,
Are you in game shape at the moment? Like, how much running are you doing right now?
yeah, not really in game shape.
You ever go?
I just wondered if you always keep yourself prepared in case you need to go on some crazy mission. On short notice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, you taper and you peak, and then you taper and peak and things like that. Like, my body needs to rest a little bit and stuff, and that's just always sort of what I tell myself, because I love food and love a few beers. But generally, I pushed it a bit hard during lockdown, hard too fast. My body got a few niggles, and then my physio mechanics, Abby, she's like, oh, you just need to maybe just ease back a bit and do some rehab, and then cool, and then I can pick it back up again. And so like I know that like I could walk out the door now and still do these things, but the difference really, if you're in good condition and you're trained, you enjoy them. Whereas if you're not really in good condition, I could still do it. It'd just be nowhere near as fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in training at the moment though. Just started again. So a lot of gym training, just as cross training, because I don't want to get too. If you train too much to be a runner, then you get really weak, and that's not good on the mountains. So on the mountains, you kind of want to be a little bit fat and fit and strong. And running, you want to be as light as possible. So they don't complement each other at all. So I've got to try and hover somewhere in between, or else I'm useless on the mountain.
Yeah, right.
So that's the hardest part, is the Cedar Summit. They don't complement each other at all.
Yeah.
Whereas like for Kilimanjaro, I was 63 kilograms.
63
by the end. Yeah, I started at 67 kilograms.
And what's your average?
72.
Yeah, right. Geez.
So like I turned myself into running mode, because the run was 10 marathons, but the climb was only 5 days. So I'm like, okay, I need to be way more of a runner. For Denali in Alaska, the run was only 5 days, and the climb was 4 weeks. So I needed to be big and heavy and have excess weight, and the running part I just needed to do slowly, because it didn't matter. So each climb is completely different. For Everest though, I'm going to have to turn myself into a runner, do all of the marathons, then park up probably for like a month and just eat rice and get conditioned back and get strong, and then do the mountain, because there's no way for Everest you can be really built for both. You need to adapt. Yeah,
right. Shay?
Just speaking about back into training, when was the last time you were on a trampoline?
Oh man, you're really dug in deep. How the heck did you find that out? Oh,
so Dave was a New Zealand representative for trampolining.
Oh man, so long ago.
Teenage? Is that teenage?
Yeah,
Dave?
when I was a teenager. Yeah.
Was it an Olympic sport then?
No. Back then it was definitely like, it was still pretty serious, and it was a big sport, and I'm super proud of all of my time with in trampolining and with the New Zealand team and coaching and things like that. But now I reckon I can do still the odd flips and things like that. But those athletes, the trampolinists, now you watch them and the amount of hours of conditioning they need to do, and you take it for granted when you're doing it every day. But when you step away from it and try and do something again, just like, if I want to feel like an old man, I'm going to go and jump on a trampoline again. I'm like, oh, that's right. Or then I can't do it anymore, and then I'll like make an excuse about my knee or something like that, and then just waddle off.
But your trampolining career helped you into a couple of TV ads in the UK.
Oh, yeah, that's right, man. We've done some like, I mean, trampolining, you learn aerial awareness, so you learn stunts and things like that. So yeah, we used to do. That's how I met Mike Bloston, actually. We did. He used to be a trapeze artist and a bit of gymnastics. So we were building like human pyramids and stuff like that.
Now I want to ask you this, because our friend group has a bit of a tradition around human pyramids and giving them as gifts at special occasions. Now, at Stephen's wedding, I think Gavin Douglas gave you a human pyramid but didn't participate in it. We've always argued that it's impossible to get a 5-man base. Do you have any tips for us and our friends on how we can perfect our human pyramid technique?
Yeah, we built a pyramid. I think it was like we got up to like 15 levels high for this ad. It's Halifax Bank, and
that's with no wires, no.
There was to train and prepare. We had some different my advice is to do it against a wall.
And that's where we've been going wrong.
Yeah, use the wall, get your structures, everything like that sorted, and that would be
is that not cheating?
There. Well,
who makes the rules?
Yeah, it's like Sea to Summit, isn't it? You self-regulate.
Totally. Do it against a blue wall and you just say it's the sky, you know.
Maybe we'll get all the Between Two Beers guests together for a human pyramid to celebrate when Dave leaves for Mount Everest for the final climb.
Bloody good idea.
Maybe at the airport we'll all just make a big pyramid.
Sounds good.
Against the wall.
TV, all of those ads and stuff, it's all smoke and mirrors. There's wires going on. There's all sorts of stuff. So most of the time when you see something, well, there's probably something else going on.
Dave, that has been epic. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us. So many amazing stories, and look forward to following your progress. We'll link to your blog. There's some great videos and photos and more detail about some of the climbs we've touched on. Shay, last words?
That was awesome. That was, like, for me, really personal in terms of some of the stuff that you've shared, some of my own kind of challenges and journeys. I was really looking forward to this. And you definitely delivered, so thank you very much for sharing some of those tales from along your expeditions. Yeah, no, thank you guys so much, and it's a privilege to be on here and sharing things that are important to talk about as Kiwi males and stuff. So thanks for giving me the platform to do that. And I think it's all important. Just if you're listening, just whatever you've heard or anything like that, just try and relate it back to yourself, and a mountain's a metaphor for climbing anything big in life, so just enjoy your climb.